So today we're going to be starting Unit 2. Unit 2 is all about how figures move in the coordinate plane. The whole topic, the whole big umbrella topic is called transformations, and we're going to break this down into three smaller transformations: translations, reflections, and rotations. The last one, rotations, might be kind of hard for us to pull off in this remote setting. I would normally show you guys how to do this on paper and you actually turn your paper, so we'll have to figure something out, but I've got time before that starts. So there's three different basic types of transformations. There's a translation, which is literally you slide your figure across the paper, you move it from one place to another. The reflections, which, like when you look in a mirror, you're going to reverse left and right and up and down. And then a rotation, where you literally turn figures. But these kind of go in order of complexity. So translations are pretty straightforward. The nice thing about a translation in the coordinate plane is the grid system that's set up in a coordinate plane. If you know the difference between left and right and up and down, it's going to be pretty straightforward. So all you're really going to have to do to translate these figures is count a certain number of units left or right, a certain number of units up or down to move your figure. So when you're translating, we're going to do this point by point, like the vertices of the triangle. If we do a triangle, like the actual corners of the triangle, we're going to take those points and move them a certain number of units. And if you do that one point at a time, you'll get a copy of the original figure just in a different location. The only trick is you have to make sure that you're consistent. Every point is going to be moved the same distance, that means the same number of units, and in the same direction. If one point goes right, they all go right. If one point goes up, they all go up. So in the coordinate plane, we've got the x's, which control how your figures are placed left and right, and the y's that control how they are placed up and down. If you've ever graphed a point in algebra, I'm just talking about how ordered pairs move. So there's two different ways that these are going to be presented to you, just flat out told in words. So I want you to move this figure 7 units to the right and 3 units down. You literally just need to take a point and count 7 units to the right and 3 units down to get a new point. However, a lot of times, just for the sake of argument here, it'll be written in what's called a mapping notation. And what that mapping notation is saying is that every original x and y coordinate point is being translated or moved to a newer x and y point that is 7 units more on the x because it moved to the right and 3 units less on the y because it moved down. So anytime you add or subtract on the x, it's going to move it left or right. And anytime you add or subtract on the y, it's going to move it up or down. So these two things here, the written out in words and written out in a mapping, those two things are equivalent. They mean the exact same thing. So I'm going to take these points. I'm going to take A and I'm going to count 7 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 3 units down. My A point moved to this point right here on the x-axis. So I'm going to put down a new A, and I'm going to note that it's different by putting a little kind of an apostrophe mark on it. It's called a prime marking, but it differentiates between the original and the new picture. I'm going to do the same thing with B. I'm going to move it 7 over, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 3 down, which will put it here. And if you notice, my new B is in the same horizontal line as my new A, just like the two originals were. The original A and the original B were lined up horizontally. The new A and the new B are lined up horizontally. And then I'm going to move my C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 7, and down 3. My new C point is right here. So I've got each of these with a prime, is what it's called, that little little apostrophe on it, A prime, B prime, C prime. What that lets us do is someone coming in and looking at our picture, they know that the new A and the old A are copies of each other. Okay, not the best sketches in the world there, but that's what we're shooting for. It doesn't matter how many points your original figure starts out as, 3 points, 4 points, 5 points. Your new figure is going to have the same number of points, just in a different location. So what I've done here is I left out the math on the X and Y coordinate, so we can take the translation or take the description written out in words, and how does that affect the X and Y coordinates. So I'm moving 3 units to the right. So every X coordinate is going to increase by 3, and 2 units down, so every Y coordinate is going to decrease by 2. Okay? Adding moves things to the right, adding moves things up, depending on if it's the X or the Y. Subtracting on the X would move it to the left, subtracting on the Y would move things down. Just pay attention to your X's and Y's. So, written out in words, I can take each of these points, 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3, and 2 down. There is my new D prime. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. My new E. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. There's my new F. There's my new G. Connect the dots. Ooh, I missed on that F, but it's kind of hard to do without a ruler sometimes. And last but not least, okay, going the other way, I've given you the mapping. How does that affect the actual figure? So I'm going to go 2 units to the, since I subtracted, to the left, and 4 units up since I added on the Y. I just want you guys to be able to go back and forth between having a description in words and having what's called a translation mapping. There are going to be mappings for the translations. There will be some mappings for the reflections. The rotations are kind of hard to do in mappings, but maybe that's something we can get into. So 2 to the left, 1, 2, and 4 up, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 to the left and 4 up. J, H, 2 to the left and 4 up. The more precise you are with these, the better your picture is going to look. If I had, graph paper and a ruler, I'd have a nice, neat copy of my original point here. These were primes. I forgot to put that on my J and my H.